good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are tuning in from in the world. So, first of all, quick introduction. My name is Jason Gutzel, coach, athlete, and entrepreneur. And yeah, there's a couple of reasons why I'm doing this live. So, the first one is if you want to get good at something, you must practice. And so, this is me doing a practice run so that I can get good at doing this thing. So, I have an intake for Limitless Self-Directed, 28 Days to Limitless Self-Directed, starting on the 5th of April in 5 weeks' time. And I'm going to have to present and teach and basically present my Limitless operating system to, I'm hoping, at least 100 men. And so before I do that, I wanted to just practice running through the Limitless operating system, taking you through the 28 Days to Limitless roadmap, which I'm going to open up in a second. And just basically teaching you the 6 pillars of the Limitless lifestyle. And so in this first video, we're going to be covering 3 pillars of the Limitless lifestyle. First of all, I'm going to give you an overview of what everything is, what Limitless is, and then I'll take you through the 6 pillars of the Limitless lifestyle, and then we'll go into a bit more detail on 3 of them just to get you started. If you do have any questions at all, please drop them in the comment section, because what this is going to enable me to do is to feed that back into my program. The idea behind self-directed is it's self-directed. If you're somebody who doesn't need a coach, but you value systems and structure, and you can just follow frameworks and adapt it to yourself, then this might be for you. So this is for kind of like busy professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners, athletes, that type of person. Anyways, I'll tell you what, go and grab some paper and a pen. You're going to need this if you want to follow along. You're going to get a lot of value out of this, so keep watching. Although I've only got 51 subscribers, there's a lot of value that I can bring to you, okay? So I'm just going to open up my app, which is the Limitless operating system. Bosh, as you can see there, the Limitless operating system. And I'm going to go into my roadmap. So the idea behind this, right? The idea behind 28 Days to Limitless is we will run through the 6 pillars of the Limitless lifestyle. And by the end of the 28 days, you will have a good understanding of the Limitless lifestyle. You'll have already been implementing it into your life. And then by the end of it, you'll know how to adapt it even more and refine it even more as you continue to go on into life, basically. So there is 2 ways we can kind of do this. So there's 6 pillars, right? And you don't really want to just jump into doing, some people like to go balls to the wall. Some people like to just dive straight in and smash out everything. Now, some people require a kind of more step-by-step approach, like more, if you try and do too much at once, you cause too much friction. Now, I'll explain it like this. So if there's 2 paths, A and B. The first path is you're going to do the full stack sprint, basically. That's what it's called, the full stack sprint. And you need 2 to 3 hours. So the first intake of people are going to be sitting with me, 2 to 3 hours, and we're going to map out everything from the 6 pillars of the Limitless lifestyle. I'll run through them. Mindset, fasting, lifestyle design, nutrition, training, and recovery. So you'd map out all of that, and then you'll crack up. So this is day 0. You'll map out 2 to 3 hours, block it out in your calendar. You're going to map out the next kind of 28 days, and then you're going to go balls to the walls. Now, that's for somebody who probably already got a good handle on their nutrition, their training, and they're ready to just implement some more. They're ready to follow some structure. Now, if you're somebody who's relatively new to training, or, you don't have a very good diet, and, even the thing in terms of like changing your diet is going to cause too much friction, then I would recommend you do the first 3 pillars first. We are going to cover them all. And in this first live session, I'm going to be covering the first 3 in more detail so that you can plug them into your life. And then on the next live session, I'm going to be covering, I'll be covering your training, the Limitless training framework, your nutrition, and also recovery. So that is the kind of overview of the 28 days to Limitless. I'm just going to move on to the next block in the roadmap. So as we already said, you choose your path. So in this part, you choose your path. And then I just want to kind of explain the 6 pillars, right? So bear with this 1 minute. I told you this is not going to be perfect, right? This is not going to be perfect. And I do get that I might make some mistakes, or you might have to wait like 30 seconds or so before I start talking. So yeah. All right. So before we kind of before we optimize any system, you want to get a good understanding of where you are in life. So before we get started with the 6 pillars, we're going to do something called the Wheel of Life. And what you want to do, take a pen and piece of paper. I mean, when you've got my app, you would do this all inside the app, and you've got 8 areas generally of life. Most people share these 8 areas of life. So you've got health and fitness, mental and emotional well-being, career and business, finances, relationship, growth and learning, spiritual connection to God, and fun and recreation. And so what you would do, you would write down each area, and then you would mark it out of 1 to 10. Now, that's going to give you a good understanding of where you are in life and maybe where you need to focus your time and energy. So that is the Wheel of Life, first of all. If you want to do that, please do so. Pause this video and write this down on your piece of paper. And so next, I'm going to go over the 6 pillars of the Limitless lifestyle. And there's a reason as to why the pillars are in this order. So you can run them in this order, but they also interlink with each other. And so the first one is mindset. So a big part of mindset is identity alignment. And when you start to identify with the man that you are becoming, it makes everything easier in your life. So, when it comes to making a decision about nutrition, when it comes to making a decision, should I go to the gym or not? Whether it's a decision to do whatever it is, if you identify more with the man that you are becoming, that higher version of yourself, it's going to be easier to make those decisions. So we'll get on to identity alignment shortly, because we are going to cover that in this session. But just to give you kind of an understanding of that, because everything does start with the thought. Everything starts with the thought. And so first of all, you've got to make the decision. Making the decision to become the limitless version of you. Making the decision to live a better life. So the next one is fasting. Now, why fasting? Fasting has a knock-on effect to every other area of life. It has a positive knock-on effect to every other area of life. I've been doing intermittent fasting, prolonged fasting, for around 15 years now, right? And I've been able to do some I've reached elite levels in strength. I don't know if you have a look at some of my videos, or if you've got my Instagram, you'll see what I've been up to, right? I'm not going to go into detail with that, but it basically fasting creates space in your life. It simplifies life. It frees up time when you're not spending your time eating, 3, 4, 5 or 6 times a day for some people, which I did used to do. You take that time and you can put that into other areas of life. The other thing it does, it increases mental focus, it increases productivity, and it increases energy. And so as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, simplicity, increase energy, increase productivity. Who doesn't want a bit of that? So that is why fasting comes next, because fasting simplifies life and it makes it easier to do the other things. The other thing is fasting becomes before nutrition. It kind of interlinks, but it comes before, because if you get the fasting underhand, if you get a control over when you eat, then it makes it easier to, you stop getting cravings, basically. You stop getting ghrelin spikes, which is your hunger hormone, which it makes it easier to stick to a particular diet. It makes it easier to eat nutrition. It makes it easier to eat nutrition. It makes it easier to follow your nutrition plan, basically. We also bring it in before training as well, because if we brought in training earlier, we're going to get more hungry. Increase in training makes you more hungry, and then that makes the diet harder to stick to. So the reason we do it in this order is because training comes later, because we get these ones locked in first. Fasting, controlling when you eat. Nutrition, controlling what you eat. Now we lock in training to amplify that. But if you bring in the training too early, what will happen is your appetite's going to shoot up. It's going to make it harder to fast, and it's going to make it harder to follow your nutrition plan. Lifestyle design. Okay. This is basically creating structure in your life, and it is creating a life designing a life that works for you and not against you. So we'll be covering two different frameworks, and it depends if you follow a structured 9-to-5 routine. If you know, for me, I was a 9-to-5 entrepreneur. I was working full time, and I was working on my business in my spare time. And I had to create this framework to enable me to be able to train at a high level, to be able to work on my business, to work 9-to-5 and still live a good life without burning out. And so we'll be covering two frameworks. The other framework is the 3s, 2s, 1s framework. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. You're going to learn that in this session later on. But yeah, lifestyle design is basically designing a life that works for you and not against you. And then we've got nutrition, which nutrition is the building blocks of life. You are made up of every single thing that you put inside yourself. And with the right nutrition, you can amplify so many different areas of life. You increase energy, you increase focus, you increase productivity by getting your nutrition right. You can also improve your physique. And yeah, you know, you want to build, I always explain it like this, is if you were going to build a house, would you build it with low quality low quality materials, or would you build it with high quality materials? The same goes for you. Okay, look at your body as a house. It's your home, right? Look after it. The thing is, give your body good nutrition, give it the good building blocks of life, and it will look after you. The next one, training. Training is the amplifier. Training, you know, it improves your health and fitness. You build muscle. You look good, strong, confident. Like, training is an amplifier, and you know, it's basically, your body is like a statement. When you walk into a room, right? Like, when you walk into a room, and if you're fit and strong, people look at you with respect, right? And that has a knock-on effect to every other area of life. You know, if you're fit, strong, confident, how are you going to show up at home? How are you going to show up in your business? You know, so again, training, big part of the limitless lifestyle. But again, you've got to get your foundation set, got to get your nutrition and your fasting sorted before you go balls to the wall with your training. And then this is, I can't stress how important this is, especially if you are an entrepreneur or a business owner. I mean, everybody should be implementing some kind of recovery into their lifestyle, but recovery is the reset. The recovery is what allows us as high performers to continue performing at a high level. Now, what I have learned this through many of years of burnout, that I had to start to schedule in specific recovery blocks into my lifestyle. And yeah, I'll go into that a little bit more detail. But again, if you're just balls to the walls all the time, you're trying to smash it in every single area, and you're not regulating your nervous system, you're not giving your body a break, and you're not giving your mind a break, you're not going to be able to function as high as you can function if you do these things. So I'll go into recovery obviously later, but that is a kind of overview of the 6 pillars. And in this next part, it's more of like, so how I explain it here, the cycle, the 6 pillars, they work kind of one to the other. They work in order, but they also work in a cycle. And so what I mean by that is, how I explain it to people is, think think cause and effect. If X changes, what happens to Y? Or why is Y doing what it is? So that makes you think, okay, what do I need to be thinking about? If something changed, what else needs to change? So I'll explain it like this. If you start fasting, right, and you start to skip breakfast, what do? You start to free up time. So if I start to fast and I free up time, what happens to my lifestyle design? Okay, lifestyle design says we've just freed up some time. What should we do with that free time on a morning? Okay, we're going to feed it into our morning routine. Okay, great. Now I've went from not only skipping breakfast, but I've started to skip lunch. Okay, so I've freed up to even more time. Okay, if X changes, what happens to Y? So Y is, other parts of your lifestyle. What can I do to make this benefit me? Okay, so I'm not eating at lunch break. What am I going to do in my lunch break? I can either go for a walk. I can maybe do some mobility or some stretching or whatever that is. I could do some mobility, some stretching. I could work on my business. The other thing is I could work through my lunch. I could finish my work day earlier in the day, and I could train earlier on the evening. So it's all about just understanding, if X, then what happens to Y. And, you can do this with all kinds of things. So if, if my training plateaus, okay, do I need to look at my nutrition? Do I need to look at my sleep? Do I need to look at my recovery? So it's kind of like the pillars work in this kind of order, but they also work in a cycle. And I encourage people to go back through and just revisit. So if something's not working, okay, what changed? What changed in your life, which is why it's not working? Oh, well, I've changed shifts at work. Okay, so you need to think, if shifts change at work, what else needs to change so that you can continue to adapt and overcome any kind of situation. So that is the pillars in a cycle. Again, what I do with clients, the first thing you would do here, but you'll do it each week, is you rate the pillars out of 10. So the first one, mindset. How's your mindset out of 10? Fasting. How's fasting out of 10? Lifestyle design, nutrition, training, and recovery. And so what that does, that's just going to bring awareness, first of all, to actually where you are in life in terms of these 6 pillars. And so it'll give you a kind of focus area for that next week. So if mindset's a 9 or a 10 and your nutrition's a 2 or a 3, what do you need to be focusing on? So next, I've already explained that, cause and effect. So this is I do encourage people to do this each week, because each week we do a weekly review. I call it a weekly system refinement, because you're not just going to nail this in your first week. You're not just going to nail it in the first 4 weeks. You're going to continue to adapt and change your life as it goes on. Now, a lot of people will stick to a diet, they'll stick to a training plan, and then when something stops working, or something happens in life, they kind of fall off the wagon and they go, well, I can't do all of that anymore, so I'm not going to do it at all. Whereas if you are constantly refining this, you're looking at what happens throughout the week, and something changed last week. Okay, what do I do this week going forward so that, if that happens again, then I can change it, adapt, and overcome. So yeah, you would use this weekly. So identify the outcome you don't like. Oh, all right. So I haven't went into this yet, but Limitless is a data-driven platform. But it's basically open the analytics, look for what changed before the drop, confirm the pattern using your weekly performance report and your weekly check-in notes, and choose an adjustment for the week and track the result, basically. So again, just getting people to tap into cause and effect. I don't know if you can hear me dog snoring. I don't know if this is noise cancellation mic, but I apologize about that. But this is a practice run. Okay, getting into it now. We are getting into the nitty-gritty bits. This is something that I've done myself. I do it all the time. I continue to practice this every single day, and it's called identity alignment, and it's about the man that I am becoming. And so what I want you to do is get a piece of paper, first of all, and I'm going to explain this to you. So identity alignment is like identifying with the man that you are becoming, doing the things that man does, and living in alignment with that future version of yourself. Now, you're not going to be perfect at it straight away. You're really not. This is an ongoing thing, and you're probably going to keep moving that kind of goalpost, so in 6 months' time, once you're kind of living as that version of you, as the man you're becoming, that future 6-month version of you might be at another level yet again, and then another level and another level. So I would encourage you to just continue doing this and just keep coming back to this as you just live in your daily life. But first, I'll explain it like this. So if you identify and believe you are that man, and you do the things that you need to do to become that man that you want to be, it makes it easier to continue doing those things. And so there's two parts of this. It's a visualization exercise, and then it's also doing the things. So your brain does not know the difference between a made-up experience and a real experience. And so the first part of it is a visualization exercise. I'm going to run through this in a second, but we'll kind of it's a visualization exercise, and I do this every morning. So I visualize the man that I am becoming. I visualize the things that he does, and I visualize, business doing really well. I visualize me being even more fit, strong, like smashing me calisthenics goals, and just being that future version of me. Now, the idea behind this is to get excited and tap into the emotion. So feel the emotion when you're visualizing this version of you. You feel the emotion as to what does that feel like. So your brain doesn't know the difference between the made-up experience and the real experience. And so each time you are visualizing, right? Each time you're visualizing this man, right? And each time you're feeling that feeling as to what it feels like to be that version of you, you're basically living that experience in your mind. And so this can work in many different ways, but it basically reprograms your mind into becoming that man, because you visualize yourself doing these things, and then what you do, you reinforce the visualization with action, and that hardwires it. So not only are you visualizing, you're feeling it, you start to do the things, and then you are living as that man. And the other thing is your life is a result of all the actions and the decisions that you make. So the decisions that you make and the actions that you take equals your current life. And so if you decide to do more for the man that you're becoming and less for the man that you currently are, 6 months, 12 months later down the line, you're going to be that man. So you visualize it, reprogramming the brain, then you do the actions. You're basically hardwiring the nervous system into, I am this man. The more you do it, the easier things become. So the easier it becomes to I'll give you a little bit of a background for me without trying to go into too much detail. I used to identify as a high functioning stoner. I smoked weed for 22 years, right? And I used to identify as that version of me. And when I got into calisthenics, I used to drink a lot. I used to party a lot. I stayed up for days at a time. When I got into calisthenics, I had the goal to become an elite calisthenics athlete. Now, when I looked at that future version of me, I asked myself, does that future version of me smoke weed? Does he drink? Does he take drugs? No, he doesn't. And so for me to live in alignment as him, I need to stop doing those things and do more things that he does. And so fast forward a few years later, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I do lift at an elite level. I've got some some mad strength on the bars. I'm somewhat of a superhuman, and I don't drink, I don't smoke. I've quit a 22-year weed habit, and a big part of it was this identity alignment, because when I do those things, there's a massive internal conflict with me, inside me. It's like, if you want to become that version of you, you don't do that stuff. And so it's not even a decision now that even to drink. So I can go out. I've got a lot of friends who still drink. I can go out, sit around people drinking pints and everything, and it doesn't bother me. It doesn't even come into my thought process, should I have a drink or not? It's like, no, I do not drink anymore, because that version of me does not drink. This version of me does not drink alcohol, so it's just easier. Now, a lot of men try to change from the outside in, but they try and focus on the behavior when their identity still says, I'm inconsistent, I always fall off, I burn out, So instead of forcing habits, it's more about reprogramming your mind so that it makes it easier to do those things. So yeah, it all starts from the inside. It all starts from the thought. So that is why identity alignment is the first one. So anyways, what I want you to do, take a moment. Step one, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to start taking some deep breaths. In through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose, and I want you to hold this breath. And then I want you to let out a big sigh. Keeping your eyes closed, I want you to say it to yourself, either out loud or in your mind, I'm stepping in to the man that I'm becoming. And what I want you to do, I want you to visualize a point in the future. It could be 6 months, it could be 12 months, it could be 2 years, it could be, visualizing a certain point in the future where you are this man. And so I want you to ask yourself, and I want you to kind of visualize this is, how do you wake up? So visualize yourself waking up on the morning. How do you move? How do you feel? What do you currently look like? Are you fit? Do you feel strong? Are you full of energy? Are you happy? I want you to visualize this version of you, this man that you are becoming. And so I want you to then ask yourself, how do you wake up? How do you go about life? How do you feel? How do you look? And then what I want you to ask yourself is, how do you lead in your business? How do you lead at home with the family? So how do you show up at home? And now I want you to kind of go into a little bit more detail with yourself. And again, after this, you can write this down. But I want you to visualize this. Like, you've got to be so accurate with this, but like, what do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? You could even look at, what are you wearing? And now what I want you to do is kind of anchor this emotion. So what emotional state does this man live from? Is he calm? Is he grounded? And just let that settle in. I just want you to take 60 to 90 seconds just visualizing something. Sorry, I just want you to take 60 to 90 seconds visualizing this man that you are. For me, For me, I'm fit, I'm strong, I'm confident. I continue to show up for myself. I continue to show up for the men that I'm supporting. Continue to show up for my family, my niece, my nephew. I'm happy. I wake up. I bounce out of bed every morning. I'm absolutely shredded. My fitness is at another level now. I'm able to do. I'm able to planche in calisthenics. That's one of the big things that I'm focusing on at the minute. You know. So how does that feel? How does it feel to be that man? And so, keeping your eyes closed, I want you to visualize this next part. And so, I want you to visualize maybe something that normally knocks you off. So, is it, whether you're getting stressed in your business, or you've just found out something's just happened in your business, you've just, I don't know, you've just lost 10 grand or whatever it is, or something's happened in your business. Now I want to visualize yourself. Normally, how would you react to this thing? This could go for nutrition as well, but it could go for training, it could go for anything. And I want you to visualize that something that would normally knock you off, right? And now what I want you to do is visualize yourself as this future version of you, responding as that future version of you. And just take a moment just to breathe, and just, instead of reacting to that situation, I want you to respond. How does that man respond? And now what I want you to say to yourself is, that is who I am. I am that man. And so now, if you just take a moment, open your eyes. What I want you to do is get your pen and your piece of paper. You're going to draw 3 columns. So you got 3 columns there. On the left, at the top, you're going to write against that man. In the middle, the man that I am becoming. And on the third column, you're going to write for that man. And so first of all, you're going to be writing in the center. So this is your identity alignment. This is the man that you are becoming statement. And so for me, I'm not going to write this out because it's quite long, but I'll read it out to you. I want you to write your version of this, the version of the man that I am becoming in the middle. I want you to tap into your visualization that you just did. And so mine is, I'm a high-performing man, an elite calisthenics athlete, and a great coach. I practice what I preach. I walk the talk. I embody the methods I teach. I'm fit, strong, and confident. I run the Limitless operating system, where men upgrade their body, mind, business, and life. Money comes to me effortlessly as a result of the value I create. I am happy, healthy, and wealthy as a result of the life that I live. I am 100% in alignment with myself. So yours can be shorter, longer, whatever that is for you. Take a moment to write that. So I'll give you a few prompts. Who am I becoming? How do I move through the world? What do I do daily that keeps me aligned? What do I not do anymore? And what does a limitless day feel like in my body, mind, business, and relationships? I'll give you a moment just to write that down. Actually, pause the video if you need to. Now, we're going to go over to the left-hand column. So I want you to list all the things that are a vote against this version of you. So skipping workouts, eating junk food, reacting instead of responding, maybe it's working too much, and not spending time with family, not spending time with family. Maybe it's drinking alcohol, or using other substances. Maybe it's waking up late, working too late. So you kind of get the idea there. You're going to write everything that is against that version of you, against the man that you are becoming. And so, again, pause this video if you're still working on this. But what I want you to do now is you're going to write in the column for that man. So all the decisions, all the things, decision for this man. Okay, so showing up to my workouts, following a nutrition plan, responding and not reacting. So anything that comes up, you're going to be challenged on this with a daily, is responding to life instead of reacting. So for instance, you're sat in traffic and you start reacting to the people in front of you, even though you've got no control over it. For this man, you're going to respond. And so you just, maybe you sit with yourself and just go, actually, I can't control it. So I'm going to respond to this by actually not reacting. It could be anything, somebody could say something to you, and instead of reacting, swearing your head off at them, you kind of respond and you just let it go. Next, being disciplined. So for this man, being disciplined and sticking to your schedules, sticking to your structure, sticking to your calendar. Sticking to your recovery sessions, whether that's stretch and mobility, could be doing some breath work, or it could be some of us like to do ice baths. Could be meal prepping. Like, all of these different things is a decision for that man. So what are the things that man does? Spends time with his family. And when I mean spending time with your family, I mean being present, being fully present when you're spending time with your family. You're not checking emails and notifications. Put this thing out of the way, put it on do not disturb. That's another thing. Keep a decision for this man. So something that I do every morning, this is on do not disturb for at least the first few hours of the day. I don't I don't scroll. For that, man, no scrolling. No scrolling, especially first thing on the morning. Sticking to, bedtime routine. So yeah, I think you get the gist of it. And what I want you to do, this is the next step. So this is kind of this is where you bring it all together. So I encourage you to kind of just live this on the daily basis. But it's got something called a decision filter. And so anytime that, okay, let's say you're going out with some colleagues to eat dinner or to eat lunch. Now, there's a version of you who orders the fries and the garlic bread and whatever else with your food. And there's a version of you who maybe orders the salad or the vegetables. This is just for instance, an example. So what I want you to do is ask yourself, is this a decision for that future version of me? Or is it a decision against? So is it a decision for that man or is it a decision against that man? And so the more that you kind of make decisions for that man, the more that you become that man, but the more that you start to hardwire it into your brain. You reinforce it with action. And so the next step after that is either I like to do it on a morning. I do visualization meditation every morning, visualizing the man that I'm becoming, but you can do it when you're out and about. For me, I was walking to the gym the other day and I was visualizing that future version of me, fit, strong, smashing calisthenics, absolutely diced. That's what I was visualizing the other day. And then when I go to the gym and train and do the things that I need to do to become the man that I want to be, that just reinforces it. So I'm living as that man. So yeah, that's it. Living in alignment, the visualization, the decisions for the man, doing less of the things that is against the man, and eventually you will become that version of you. So that was the first one for identity alignment. And now the next one, again, you can grab another piece of paper if you like. The next one, right? Now, this is a blend between lifestyle design and mindset. And it's all about your morning routine. And, you might say that your morning routine should be under lifestyle design. It's the way that you structure your morning. But really, it's the way that you prime your mind for the day ahead. So I always explain it like this. So if you start the day right, you generally have a good day. Now, if you start the day in a bad way, if you start with a shit mindset, basically, you're probably going to have a shit day. If you're one of these people that's like, oh, I've just had a nightmare of a morning and blah, 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 this day is going to be this, that, and the other, well, you're probably going to have a shit day. If you keep having great mornings, set yourself up with a great morning routine, you have a great morning, you're going to go into work or you're going to go into your business, that's going to have a knock-on effect to a great day. Now, if you stack a bunch of great days on top of each other, you have a great week. Stack a bunch of great weeks on top of each other, you have a great month. Keep repeating the process and you have yourself a great year. Ultimately, stack the years on top of each other and you have yourself a great life. So the morning starts with the mind. So there's things that you're going to do to prepare your mind, right? First of all, stop scrolling. Do not wake up, start scrolling. Do not wake up and start checking emails. Do not wake up and start checking like Asana notifications, anything like that. It can wait. It can literally wait, right? Unless it's an emergency, it can wait. What you want to be doing is prepping your mind so that you can respond to those things. If you wake up out of bed and straight away you start checking things and you get some bad news in your business, straight away you like, that's going to make you angry. It's going to make you react. And then the rest of your day is going to follow. If you take some time for yourself on a morning, put your mind in a good state, put your body in a good state, you are going to have a much better day. So it's kind of like use the mornings to prepare your mind, to prepare the rest of your day, to prepare you for life. Now, there are a few things that I do on a morning, right? These are kind of like my non-negotiables, I call it like my quadro of rituals. And so the first one is like gratitude. So just, when it's not cloudy and I see the sun rising from my window every morning, it's like I'm so grateful to have that. I actually feed it the gratitude in with my visualization, which is another non-negotiable for me in the morning. And visualizing those things and visualizing myself and just being grateful for those things, that already is changing the state of which you live in. You kind of start to live in a state of abundance. The other thing is as well, which I forgot to mention, is there's a part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex, which is most active on a morning. And it's the main part of your brain that like actually programs your mind, your subconscious. So it's for like decision making and planning and all these things that basically if you use this time in the morning when this part of your brain is most active and you're feeding it information, if you're changing, you're visualizing, you are how am I trying to explain this? You basically I've lost myself here. This is why we're doing these practice videos, right? So you basically, your mind is in this like hyper programmable state first thing on the morning. So you want to be doing things that are going to program your mind. And if that's doing things like, meditation, visualization, breath work, or, spending some time doing some recovery, mobility, like that sort of stuff, just prepping yourself, also doing the things that man would do, that's going to keep reinforcing in your brain that I am showing up, I'm doing the things that this man would do. And then eventually you are going to be living as that man. So you've got gratitude, you've got visualization, and you've also got learning. So again, it's when the prefront, like this part of your brain is for taking in information and programming your brain. So if you're taking in information, if you're learning first thing on a morning, like for me, that's when I get me best part of my day is first thing on a morning, when I get the most amount of work done, when my mind is just like on fire. But I like to listen to audiobooks. I like to sometimes I listen to a lot of audiobooks. You might want to listen to a podcast. You might actually want to do it the old-fashioned way and pick up a book and read. Another thing that I like to do is habit stacking, which, listening to an audio while I'm doing my mobility, while I'm out walking the dog. It's kind of habit stacking these things on top of each other where they don't take any more time. You can kind of do these things at the same time. So, the next one is movement. So moving your body, priming your body for the day. You've just been lying in bed for 6, 7, 8 hours. You want to move your body first thing in the morning, get the blood flowing. Not only that, it wakes you up. Not only that, it's great for kind of recovery if you are doing hard workouts. So for me, stretch, mobility, using my foam roller, that kind of thing on a morning. And again, you can habit stack. So while you're doing your stretch and mobility, you can be listening to an audiobook. So yeah, the other thing, practicing your gratitude when you're doing your visualization, or if you're out just walking on a morning, watching the sunrise. Sometimes I'm like, I just look at my dog and I'm just so grateful for her because I absolutely love her to bits. And it's just putting your mind in a like prime state before you take on the rest of the day. Like, morning routine is the most important part of your life. People say you don't need a morning routine. You live a better life if you have a good morning routine. So yes, that's my kind of quadro of rituals. The next part of this morning routine session is, sorry, I didn't go into it, but I've already explained the visualization. That is part of my morning routine. And again, it's just visualizing the man that I want to become. And why is that important? Because I'm keep rewiring my brain on a morning, especially on a morning. Again, prefrontal cortex is most active, and I'm visualizing this version of me. And then I continue to show up throughout the day, keep doing the actions that this version of me does. And it hardwires it. It hardwires it in your brain. So yeah. What we're going to do next, right? So that's kind of my morning routines. That's like kind of what I would do, right? Or just, those are the types of things I would do in my morning routine. Now, what I would say is you should have three versions of a morning routine. So the first one is the base level, non-negotiable, 5 minutes, and that can be literally just doing a 5 minute breath work, or it could be sitting there having your cup of coffee on the morning, not touching, not like looking at your phone or anything like that. You could just be doing a little visualization, or it could be a 5 minute foam rolling routine. It could be a little mobility routine, whatever that is, doing a little bit of movement. It's like a non-negotiable. It's like your very base level. It's like I at least have to do this on the morning to get me going, to prime myself. Now, the next one is for when you've got a little bit more time. So, you know, the first, the base method is the base morning routine. Let's think like 5 to 10 minutes. Now, the next one is a little bit more of a level up. Maybe you've got 15 to 20 minutes, and you might do a little bit of movement, bit breath work, bit little 5 minute meditation. That's kind of your next one. And then your third variation of your morning routine is where you've got a bit more time. It's probably a Sunday morning for most, where you've got a bit more time. You get up, you can do your mobility, you can do your breath work, a little meditation. You might go for a walk, you might go for a sauna or a steam room. And that is kind of like maybe your ideal morning routine, where it's just like that is just the perfect start of the day. And so you'd have three variations of it. Is one is your 5 to 10 minute one. The next one's like, I don't know, 15 minutes to 30 minutes max. And then the third variation, that could be 45 minutes up to maybe over an hour, depending on the person. So yeah, have your three variations. And I just want you to take a moment just to write these down, and just think to yourself as you go through life. You wake up, or your alarm didn't go off, or you had to work late for whatever reason, and you wake up the next day and you've only got a short time. You're gonna lock in that non-negotiables, that short morning routine. Okay, and then on your standard days where life's going pretty sweet, everything's kind of structured, you're waking up at a great time, you actually have that time on a morning. You can do the medium length one, which is like 30 minutes to 45 minutes. For me, it's kind of like 20 minutes mobility, 10 minutes breath work, 5 minutes visualization, that kind of thing. And then, like I said, it's probably going to be a Saturday or a Sunday when you've got a little bit more time. You're going to have that expanded morning routine. So I want you to just, again, you can draw three columns, or you can just bullet point this and just write in what your variations of your morning routine will be. Just to add to that, you want to be, what I would say is to be covering like the three core areas, which is like kind of mindset, mental fuel, so like learning or taking in some good information, and then your kind of physical activation, which is like your movement, your mobility. You might do like a little 20-minute workout, whatever that is. And also just think about the habit stacking that I told you about. So habit stacking, what can I integrate with when I do this? Can I do this also? So going out for a walk, listen to a podcast, doing some stretching, listen to an audiobook, basically practicing your gratitude while you're out for a walk, that sort of stuff. So if you still need some time, then pause this video, take some time. I'm going to move on to the next part. So in this next part, and you know what it is? I'm going to be honest, I haven't actually wrote it in here. I'm going to write this in because this is actually, I don't know if you see my book up here. My book, Becoming Limitless, on Amazon, if you want it. There is a section on reacting and responding. And there's a few kind of things that I do. I very rarely react now. I live in a state of like just responding to things. I don't get triggered. So I don't get triggered. I'm just gonna read a little something from the book. In any situation in life, you can react or respond. And in whichever way you react or respond, both can have a knock-on to a chain of events. And usually reacting has the more negative outcome. Do I share this? I mean, it's in the book already. So yeah, so I'll give you an example of this. So I was really tested with this a few years ago. So a few years ago, my brother actually passed away, and he had an epileptic fit, right? And on the morning, my mum rang me up. Jason, can you come down to help move Adam? He's had a fit. We need to put him in recovery position and make sure he's okay. Anyways, he wasn't breathing. We had to ring the ambulance. We did try to do CPR, try to resuscitate him. The ambulance came. They tried, give him 4 rounds of adrenaline, and 40 minutes later, they declared him dead. Now, an older version of me would have reacted to that situation, and he would have reacted by going to buy weed. He would have went and bought alcohol, and I'd have probably gotten off the map for like 3 days, maybe even took some other substances. My dad, he reacted. My dad was a drinker, and my dad reacted, and the first thing he does when he reacts, he goes and drinks. He buys a drink, and, I thought, I'm not going to let this just be an excuse for me to react and go and smoke weed or drink or whatever that is. And so I decided to respond, and I responded by that night. I went on a bike ride just to think about everything. And then I kind of followed up. Did I respond? Did I react? I feel like I responded to this in a good way because it gave me a lot of mental clarity, it gave me time to think, and I didn't have any appetite. So I did my first 5-day fast. And so I kind of responded to the situation, but maybe I'll go into something that's maybe not that deep. So there's a few things that I've done. I'm actually laughing at this because I've just saw this part of the book. So there's a few things which I've done. I call them kind of responding hacks, right? And you are going to think I'm a little bit crazy here. And I don't know where this came from. It just came from wherever it came. It just came from my personality, from my brain, right? So I do a lot of cooking. I absolutely love cooking. I do a lot of fasting, right? And there has been times where, I haven't done it in a while, but there's been times where I've fasted all day and I've cooked up a big meal, a nice feast, lovely, tasty, nutritious feast. And I've turned around and I've knocked it all over the floor. I remember one time I went to take something out of the microwave, and the glass dish that it was in, it was so hot that it burned my hand, and I dropped it and it smashed all over the floor. And back then, I would have reacted. So I mean, oh no, fuck, like this, like swearing, like absolutely gutted, even though there's nothing that I can do about it. And I kind of started doing this thing years ago, and I would try and catch myself when I'm reacting. So I try and catch myself mid-reaction and try and change it. And so I started to do this thing, right? And I started to say, if I'd start to react, so let's say I dropped a plate of food, fasting all day, dropped a plate of food, I'd be like, no, and then I'd change it I'd catch myself and I'd go, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. And I would just start singing that song. And I don't know where that came from, but I started to do that each time, that if I would catch myself in that situation, it was generally down to food. I'm not going to lie, I don't really react to anything else. But yeah, I would kind of just like burst out laughing and singing, and just it would go from just drop like absolutely good to drop well me food all over the floor to actually just laughing my head off at myself and going, well, I'll just have to clean it up because there's nothing actually I can do about it. And am I going to let that upset the rest of my night, or am I just going to have to make something else and just crack on with the rest of my life, and everything's going to be okay? There's another. It's called the kind of it's the driver's reactor hack, and it's like these are the driving reactors hacks. So the first one is the traffic mindset shift, and so this one's more for kind of, well, you can, for anybody who believes, but like more for kind of spiritual people maybe, or anybody who kind of believes in something. So if you're stuck in traffic, right, behind like a bunch of people, and you need to get somewhere, and you're getting frustrated, you're reacting, you're swearing, you're looking at the traffic lights, and you're going, fuck, like, hurry up, man, I need to get here, or wherever I need to get there. Now, I saw this, you might have heard this before, but I saw this somewhere online, and somebody said that when you leave the house, but then you forget something and you have to go back in to get it, it could be your wallet, could be your phone, it could be whatever it is, and you have to go back in to get it, and then you go back out, and then you start your journey in the car. Now, people have said that could be like a higher version of you, or like, God, or whatever it is, or your guardian angel, which has kind of made you kind of forget that you have to go back in, and has prevented something from happening later down the line. So you could be driving along the road, and had you left at that time, you could have crashed your car or whatever that is. So I kind of applied that same logic, that same kind of thinking to this. So if you're stuck in traffic, well, maybe you're being prevented. You might be, your guardian angel or God or your higher self might be preventing you from actually, getting in a traffic accident just up the road. And so it's all just about changing the mindset. The other thing is, it's going to take you like probably 2 more minutes to get to your destination, and it's not going to be the end of the world. Like a lot of people react when they're in the car. This is like why I did a full chapter on it. The other thing is, so you've got something called like the empathy check, and so if you're behind somebody, you're behind somebody who's driving really slow, you don't know what's going on in that car in front of you. So it could be an old woman, it could be somebody who's sick, it could be somebody who's, somebody's just lost somebody, and they're just like, they're driving and they're just driving really slow. Or, it could be a woman with their kids, and the kids are like fucking screaming in the back and stuff, and she's like driving slow, trying to sort them out. So you don't actually know what's going on in the car in front of you. So just check in for a minute and just show some empathy for, you could make up a scenario in front of you. Do you know what it is? There's an old woman in front of us driving like that, and she's going to turn off in a second, and I'll be on my way. Now, the next one. Now, this is such a powerful thing, right? Because sometimes we get frustrated because we lack control. So when you're behind, let's say you're on a journey and you're behind somebody, and you're actually swearing at them, right? Because they're driving slow, but you think that they're driving slow on purpose. You're like, why are they driving slow on purpose? What are they doing to me? What that is like, you're basically saying they have control over me. And that's where the frustration's coming from. It's like they've got control over me. They are forcing me to slow down. So there's one thing that you can do to take the control back. Slow down even more. Increase the distance between you and that car, and go, do you know what it is? I decided to slow down. I've took control, and I've slowed down even more. And I'm going to have a nice, chilled little drive, and I don't care what that car's doing in front. And you can literally, like, that in itself, literally just slowing it down. And because you decided to slow down, you decided to take control. I can't tell you how good that feels. Like, I still do it to this day, and sometimes I do get like a little bit frustrated in the car, and now it's just like, I'll just slow down even more, cruise control on, 20 mile an hour, happy days, just take a moment to enjoy the scenery, like that sort of stuff. And I promise you, like any of these things, like if you are driving, it's only going to take you a few more minutes to get your destination. At the end of the day, it's not a big deal. Stop getting frustrated, right? Stop getting frustrated when you're in the car. So, what I want you to do, I haven't got this written down as such yet, but it will be going in the app, because this is a very important part, of life, is reacting and responding. I want you to write down 3 things in which you might currently react, or 3 situations in where you would react. So if it's the driving, definitely write that down, and maybe take a mental note, or just write down the traffic mindset shift, which is the kind of the spiritual thing I spoke about, the empathy check, and then the slow down to regain control. But yeah, honestly, like game changers, absolute game changers. And you can probably apply those to other parts of life in some way. I'm trying to think. Yeah, you could apply the same thing. Let's say you're waiting for a colleague to do some work and it's preventing you from doing something else, or you're ill, but you need to get some work done, and you're just that ill that you can't get the work done. Well, instead of reacting and getting frustrated and stressed, you go, do you know what it is? If it's something you can't control, what's the point? And in the grand scheme of things, nothing really matters. In the grand scheme of things, nothing really matters. It does, but it doesn't, right? In 100 years, 200 years, we'll all be dead. Nobody will even remember our name. So in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter? Probably not. Anyways, let's move on to fasting, right? As I talked about earlier, right? Fasting, it has so many great benefits, especially if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur or somebody who wants to live a healthy lifestyle. So with fasting, for instance, so fasting for training, if you work out and you fasted, or you follow a fasting lifestyle, what that helps you do is what's known as metabolically flexible. You start to adapt to be able to burn fat as a fuel. So how does that help when you are working out? Well, when glycogen runs out, your body's able to then tap into its fat stores, its energy stores. And so through fasting, you become what's known as metabolically flexible. And that allows you, again, I'm not repeating myself, but you're able to tap into those fat stores. So your training sessions, don't get us wrong, at first, it might be a little bit of a challenge, but after you become fat adapted in your training sessions are insane. Now, if you don't believe us, go and have a look through some of my videos, go and check out my Instagram. This was a UK national Lord of Statics. That was a UK national comp, which I won. I was 2 days fasted. This one here, the North, for 2, I entered in 2 different categories. I came first in one and second in the other. Most people only enter in one. I've been able to fast. I wouldn't ever tell anybody to do this, but I pushed my limits. I fasted for 6 days, and then I trained insane, which, like, you can go and have a look. Training at an elite level, like doing some crazy stuff on the bars. Anyways, fasting, what are the benefits that it have mentally? So it gets rid of brain fog. It increases a chemical called norepinephrine. Basically, your body goes into fight or flight response, and certain chemicals increase. So it increases your focus. Not only that, when you become fat adapted, ketones, which is a steady supply of energy for the brain, which is actually better for thinking. Ketones are better for your brain when you need to think. You've just got so much more of a clear mind. Now, if you think about it like this, most people, when they have their lunch break, they generally have a crash on the afternoon. People crash at like just after 12. People crash at like 3 p.m. I do not get that. I've just got a steady supply of energy. I don't eat till the evening. and my energy is just like that throughout the day. My brain is switched on all of the time. I'm just like hyper productive, super focused. So if you increase in energy, increase your focus, you increase productivity. What happens when you increase productivity? Well, you get more work done, and that can equal more revenue at the end of the day. Fasting, it helps with insulin sensitivity. So it helps in the way that you process sugars and carbohydrates. If you increase insulin sensitivity, it means your cells are sensitive to insulin. So you only need a little bit of insulin to open up the doors of the cells to allow the nutrients to come in. Now, if you're eating throughout the day, you eat 3-4 meals, but you're also having sugary drinks, you're throwing insulin at the doors of the cells each day, every couple of hours or whatever it is, and your cells become less resistant to the insulin, which it doesn't allow as much nutrients in, and then there's kind of a spillover, is like insulin then will store that food as fat. Now, with increasing insulin sensitivity, again, when you do intake that food, it opens up the doors of the cells, because the cells are so sensitive to the insulin that it allows more nutrition in. And if you didn't know this, insulin is the most anabolic hormone in the body. So it's actually used for building. But when your cells are desensitized to it, that's when it stores as fat. So go and have a look at me. I'm not joking. You can build muscle while you're fasting, and you can build lean muscle. So the other thing, fasting creates space in your life. It frees up time. So, it helps with your routines, basically. You've got more time on a morning, or whenever you choose to fast, you free up more time, increased energy, increased productivity. You save money. You save money because you're not spending that much on food. So there's many different benefits to fasting, right? The other thing, which I nearly missed out, is autophagy. So autophagy is basically your body's recycling system. It's how your cells recycle. When you go for a period of time without food, your cells basically go, right, there's no food coming in, we still need to regenerate. Okay, so we're going to take the damaged components from these cells, and we're going to recycle the damaged mitochondria. We're going to recycle the other components of the cells and regenerate them into new ones. At the same time, flushing out any toxins and cell debris. So it's basically your body's way of regenerating cells. And if there's any old damaged, broken cells, it will recycle them into new cells. It's your body's way of healing. So I do fasting for many different reasons. One of them is longevity. It's the main one is longevity. Also increasing growth hormone, increasing insulin sensitivity. I increase my energy, increase focus, increase productivity. I save time, I save money. There's so many benefits. So many benefits to fasting. The other one, which I'll explain as well. So again, going into that cellular health and becoming what's quite the superhuman, is the more that you fast, right? The more, let us just start again. When you fast, your cells go into this process called autophagy. They also go into a process called mitochondrial biogenesis. Now, what that means is the mitochondria of the cells get better at producing ATP, which then produce energy. So look at the mitochondria of the cell as the kind of factory, the power plant of the cell. Now, when you go for periods of time without food, your cells basically say, well, we need to get better at producing energy so that next time there's no food around, we can produce more energy. And so that process, mitochondrial biogenesis, as you keep doing that over time, your cells, so that, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, your cells get better at doing the things that they need to do to perform the actions that they need to do, provide energy. So the ATP, basically, the mitochondria will produce more energy. Not only that, when you're more fat adapted, you get more ATP per molecule of fat compared to carbs. So when you're able to not only tap into that body fat as fuel, your cells are performing now performing better because you've went through those periods of time without food. So you're kind of like biohacking your body, you're hacking your cells into performing better each time. And it's like, the proof is in the pudding. I've been doing this for years. And I'm not joking, like I've not aged in the past 5 years. And that's down to the increase in growth hormone. The other thing is I continue to push my limits in fasting and training at an elite level, like doing some crazy shit when in the fasted state. So the proof is there, and some people might not agree with it, but what I would encourage you to do is just give it a try. And I promise you, like, humans have been able to without fasting, without our body being able to go into these processes, humans wouldn't be alive. We've constantly went through cycles of feast and famine. And so through those cycles of famine, your body would go into autophagy, cells would adapt, get better at doing what they're doing for next time there's no food around. The other thing is I would like to drop in is training in a fasted state. I will get into this in a little bit more detail in the next one, but training in a fasted state. Now, a cheetah is always fastest when it's hungry. A lion is not going to go and hunt after it's eaten. So why is everybody thinking that they need to eat multiple times a day to fuel their workouts, when in reality, you have got an energy source on you? The average person has got 20 to 30 pounds, right, of stored energy. 1 pound of body fat is 3,500 calories. And I think if I do the maths right in my head, I think it's between 70, and you've probably got between 70 and 100,000 calories worth of energy stored on your body, in fat, versus the 2,500 that you might have stored in glycogen. Again, what happens when that glycogen runs out? If you are somebody who has become metabolically flexible, you can then tap into that energy source. I'll drop this one here. I actually interviewed a guy called Alex. He's called Keto Marathons on Instagram. He fasted for 5 days. He was already fat adapted. He did some fasting. He already did some fasting, but he eats a keto diet. He was already fat adapted, and he was able to run 5 marathons back to back on a 5-day fast. Each day, he completed a marathon without eating for 5 days. So just to give you a bit of an idea, and I know there's different styles of training, but just trust us, it's fasted training sessions are superior. I've lifted weights, I've done calisthenics, I've done bloody recently kettlebell shred fast workouts, high intensity stuff, and I feel better. I feel better when I'm in a fasted state when training. So that's benefits of fasting. Some of the benefits of fasting. Now, a question I hear from people is like, what's the best method of fasting to do? I'm gonna go out there and say, like, there's no one best method, because for me, fasting, I do fasting for a lot of different reasons. You're going to do different lengths of fast for a different outcome. If you want to get deep autophagy, cellular healing, you might do 2, 3, 4, 5. Some people do 40-day water fasts, believe it or not. Now, what I would say there's no single best kind of standard intermittent fasting method. What you want to do is pick one that is sustainable for you. And I would also encourage you, if you are new to fasting, is to work through them. So you start at like a 14 or a 16-hour fast. And then what you do, you reap all of the benefits from that. So you're probably going to drop a little bit weight. You're going to feel a little bit more energy. You might have freed up a little bit more time. And then what you're going to do when that starts to become comfortable and easy, then you're going to move the needle a little bit. You're going to go, right, that 14 or 16 hours have become easy. I'm going to push it back a little bit more. So you might start to do an 18 or a 20-hour fast. And then you're going to get even more benefits from that. It's like, I always see with people when they start the nutrition plans, and I give them like a high number of calories to work with at first. They're like, why am I on that much? And I'm like, well, you've got more to play with then. If you just dive straight into 2-day fasts, right, then you're leaving all the other benefits, all the other gains, or like fat loss that you would have gotten from all the other benefits of fasting. the other thing, it allows you to kind of learn each different method. And so, yeah, I don't think there's any one kind of, there's a sweet spot for me, which is around 20 to 22 hours, but I'm kind of advanced. I would say I'm advanced. So 20 to 22 hours is easy for me. And I can eat a lot of food. Some people can't eat a lot of food in one go. And so what I would do is encourage you to look at your lifestyle as a whole as well. Don't like look at your week and think, okay, what days can I fast, and when does it make sense to fast? When does it not make sense to fast? And I also teach this is fit fasting to fit your lifestyle. And so everybody's lifestyles are different. We all have different responsibilities. Some people have kids. Some people run two businesses. Some people, they work late. They do shifts. Like whatever that is, you've got to look at your lifestyle and think, okay, fit fasting to fit my lifestyle, not the other way around. Because if you start trying to change your lifestyle to fit in with fasting, that's where you get friction. And when you get friction, it makes it harder to stick to something. So if you go actually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's easy for me to do a 16-8. And do you know what it is? Thursday, I go out with dinner with the team or whatever, and it's going to be easier for me to fast all day and then eat at that period of time, whatever that is. Or you could be a single parent and you've got the kids 3 days of the week, and okay, on those days I want to have breakfast with my kids. Okay, so maybe don't fast on those days. You might have a time on a weekend where you go, do you know what it is? Saturday would really work for me to either not eat at all or to do a 20-hour fast. Or, you might be doing one meal a day throughout the week, and you might go, I'm going to be a bit more relaxed on the weekend and I'm going to do a 16-8. There's actually no kind of, there's obviously you get like different benefits from different ones, but I would say a fit fasting to fit your lifestyle. Plan out the idea here is we're going to plan out your first week. So look at what you've got on throughout the week. Think about your work, your training, your family commitments, all of these things. And then just the easiest thing to do when you're planning out your fasting is go, okay, think of the eating window. Try not to get too caught up with how many hours, think of the eating window. So, and it's an easy way to work it out. So if you're going to do a 16-8 fast, okay, I've got an 8-hour eating window. So I'm going to start the eating window, 8-hour eating window. You could be starting at 10 and stop eating at 6 p.m, 11 and 7, 12 and 8, 1 and 9, that sort of thing. You can also do it earlier. You don't have to skip breakfast. This is another thing. You fit fasting to fit your lifestyle. And if you're somebody who really, 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 really loves to have breakfast, and somebody who really doesn't eat that much of a big dinner, maybe keeping breakfast in your lifestyle is good. And maybe you stop eating earlier in the day. So you bring that evening meal back. And so what I encourage you to do, again, through these, we'll move on to that shortly. But when you do your weekly refinement, you look back at the week and go, okay, what worked? What didn't? And then you might just change the fast, based on that. And then as the weeks and months go on, when fasting just becomes easy and becomes a way of life where once skipping, you're skipping breakfast for the first week or so, and it was a little bit difficult because you've got this hunger hormone ghrelin spiking all the time. And now it's become easy and it's a way of life. You'll then start to move through different methods. And then, once you get comfortable with doing 20 to 24 hours, and to somebody who's new to fasting, this is going to sound like really hard, but I promise you it's not. It's so easy once you get into it. But you're going to start to challenge yourself and you're going to go, do you know what it is? I broke limiting beliefs there because I never ever thought that I'd be able to go all day without eating. And now I can do 24-hour fasts. I wonder if I could do a full day fast where it's actually more like a 30 or a 36-hour fast. So for instance, like skipping all your food all day, going to bed, waking up. And then when you wake up, you're like another 10 to 12 hours into the fast. And again, you're going to, as the time goes on, you're going to delve into these like deep areas of fasting. But what I would say is, don't go jumping in the deep end, right? Don't let your ego take over, and don't be chasing numbers too much, because what people do, they'll jump into the deep end with fasting. They'll try and do a 2 or 3 day fast because they've saw Bob online doing 3 day fast and he's had his immune system reset. And it's like, well, if you go and jump in and do a long fast like that, you're going to create that much friction. It's going to be that hard for you that your kind of view on fasting is hard. When in reality, if you started, like, I always explain it like this: when you start the gym, you don't go into the gym and pick up the biggest weights, do you? So what do? You start where you can start, and you have a progressive overload. Fasting is just like a muscle, and you should follow a progressive overload system, starting with a 14 to 16 hour fast, and then you can move it half an hour each day. This is another thing that I do with clients. If they're wanting to do like a 16-8, right, and they're really struggling to move their breakfast to, like, say 12 o'clock, what I would say is, say your meal is at, like, your first meal is at 7 o'clock in the morning. I would encourage you to create a breakfast that you can have on the go. It could be a shake, it could be some eggs, it could be, some fruit, whatever that is, right? Something that you can just have at your desk at work, for example. Now, instead of having your breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning at home, I want you to push that either half an hour or an hour, right? And what that's going to do, right? So the reason people struggle with getting to to taking the meal time from here to there is because of a ghrelin spike. Now, ghrelin is your hunger hormone, and it spikes at your regular eating times. So it'll spike at your breakfast at 7 o'clock. It's going to spike at your 12 o'clock lunchtime, and it's going to spike at your 6 o'clock dinner time. It's also going to spike at the 2 o'clock snack that you have on the afternoon. What you need to do is train your body into releasing this hormone at a different time. And how do you do that? You move what I call the ghrelin window by 30 minutes at a time each day or every couple of days. So you take the 7 o'clock meal on the morning, your breakfast, and you move it till 7:30. You do that for a couple of days, then you move it till 8, and then you push it on maybe 8:30 or 9. After 2 weeks of doing that, you've then moved your breakfast to 12 o'clock, and your body doesn't really notice the difference. So that's just a little tip for you. So again, the different methods that I've got written down here, which is your most popular ones, is like your 16-8, fast for 16 hours, including your sleep, and eat in an 8-hour window. And then you've got the 18-6, which is just another couple of hours, have a 6-hour eating window, 20-4, known as the warrior diet. And then you've got OMAD, which is generally 22 or 23 hours. So you eat in a kind of 1 hour, maybe 2-hour eating window. The way why I explain it like that is because if you went for a meal, right? If you went to have a meal in a restaurant, and you have, let's say you have starter, main, and dessert, you don't go, oh, I had 3 meals. You went, no, you didn't. You go out for a meal. So, like, what OMAD is to me is a meal overall. I generally have a big meal, and I'll follow that up with some fruits or some homemade ice cream or something like that. And that's, or yogurt, nuts, fruits. That's my 1 meal a day. I'm having it kind of in an hour. Sometimes it's even a 2-hour space, and I would still class that as OMAD. Depends how anal you want to be on it. Prolonged fasting is anything more than 24 hours. And, depending on the person, I can do a 42-hour fast every 3-4 days, and I'm fine. But I can eat enough, and I've got enough experience to be able to do that. I wouldn't tell anybody to do what I do. I encourage you to experiment yourself, and again, try not to just jump into like these long fasts. And if you do need any more help on like prolonged fasting, feel free to drop us a message. I've got some resources somewhere on the do's and the don'ts. And again, if you're inside my app, you're going to have that information anyways. There's lessons on extended fasting. Ooh, fasting. Is there anything else that I need to cover in fasting? I will cover this one. So this is the entrepreneur athlete's fasting schedule, and this is something that I ran for around 3 years and had amazing results, right? And for me, it goes like this: it's 4 20-hour fasts in a 4-hour eating window throughout the week. So like Sunday evening going through till Thursday evening, I've done 4 20-hour fasts. Then I choose one day of the week where I don't eat, which was a Friday, And what that allows me to do is throughout that week, I'm kind of, let's say I'm maintaining like me food intake, me muscle, me gains, staying lean. Then I threw in that kind of no day eating on a Friday, which would mean I would eat on the Saturday afternoon, which tends to be around 42-hour fast. I'm getting deeper ketosis. I'm getting deeper cellular health. I'm also skipping one full day's worth of calories. So I am going to burn like a full day's worth of calories. And that's literally how I got the most leanest I've ever been. The other thing I like to do is it's a 3 training sessions per week. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, 3 days, like if you're trying to train 5 or 6 times a week, it's too much to try and stick to. The other thing is people underestimate the rest. Like when I increased my rest days, it's active recovery, but like my non-training days, my training went through the roof. Like my progress went through the roof. See these here? This was when I was following a 3-day training schedule. And yeah, I would also place one of the training sessions at the end of that fast. So I would train on the Saturday afternoon, don't eat Friday, and I'll train on the Saturday afternoon, training in a deeper fasted state at like 38 to 40 hours. And like I said before, it's teaching your body to be able to perform when there's no food. So you become more fat adapted, your cells become better at producing ATP. And then imagine like when you do have like, when you are going back to like your 24-hour fasts, you literally just feel like, if I can do that when I'm doing 42 hours fasted, if I can train like that when I'm 42 hours fasted, when I've only went 20 hours without food, imagine what your training sessions are like. The other thing is like the cellular health that you're getting out of it. So you're getting like increased insulin sensitivity, you're getting the autophagy, you're getting the mitochondrial biogenesis, and it's quite a sustainable thing to do, is just skipping one full day's worth of food a week. The other thing is you're going to get lean as fuck. Excuse me swearing, but you will get lean if you do this right. So yeah, and the reason, as an entrepreneur, fasting like this, you've got like you're skipping breakfast and you're skipping lunch. You're freeing up like 60 to 30 minutes a day, what you would have otherwise spent on eating or going out to get food or whatever it is. You can take that time and put it back into your business, or you can focus on another area of life. The other thing is like when I do these longer fasts, when I do these longer fasts, whether it's like 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, I lock in on work. Like I get a lot more done. So tonight, I'm not eating today, by the way. Today I will put an extra couple of hours into my business, and not only that, I'm going to be 100% switched on. Whereas normally I do a bit of work on the evening, and it's like kind of low level work where I don't need to use much brain power because I've eaten and stuff like an hour or two before, and I'm just getting a few bits and pieces done on the laptop. But when I'm fasting all day, my mind is like wired because it's like in that hunt mode, and so my brain's switched on, and so I'm hyper focused and I can get a lot more done. So like there's many different reasons why I do this, but like that schedule right there. Oh, I also forgot to add. So that's leading up to the Saturday. You have a 6-hour eating window, and then the Sunday you would have like a 16/8 fast, just to allow your body to kind of refeed, eat what it needs to eat, so that it can grow and kind of hit that reset again before you go back into the 20-hour fasts. But this is something that maybe you would want to work towards, and maybe in like a 6-month time frame, like in maybe 6 to 12 months you could be doing this. And I promise you, like, it's insane. I've kind of stepped it up recently. I'm not going to go into like what I'm doing at the minute, but I've stepped it up again recently, and I'm saving even more time. I'm reaping even more benefits. And yeah, like this right here, the entrepreneur athlete schedule, the fat burning, muscle building, brain optimization schedule it's a game changer. Anyways, oh yeah, we've got some things to cover. So hydration and electrolytes. more so when you're doing prolonged fasting, you want to make sure that you've got some electrolytes or have some salt in your water. If you're feeling a bit lightheaded, a bit fatigued, and what I would be asking myself is, have I had some electrolytes, or maybe did I have enough salt in my food the day before? Maybe I didn't. Okay, do I need to supplement with some electrolytes? Am I somebody who I go in the sauna or steam every single day, and so I sweat a lot more than the standard person? I'm going to sweat electrolytes out. So especially tonight, I'm on a longer fasted day. Tonight I'll actually go for a couple of rounds in the sauna. It will also help me sleep, but I know that I'm going to have to replace those electrolytes. Otherwise, I might wake up tomorrow morning and feel even more like tired and fatigued, and just be like, whoa, that just does not feel good for me, and I need to break the fast. When in reality, your body's just low on minerals, and the electrolytes you want to get are if you send me a message, I'll send you a link. But you want ones without flavor, no sweeteners, no nothing. You just want plain potassium, magnesium, sodium. You want to be things that you can drink. So this is hydration electrolytes. Things that you can drink: black coffee, black tea, any kind of herbal tea that's not sweet, and water. Also adding some salt in your water if you need to. And what I would say, when you are drinking, a lot of people do this. They'll drink that much to try and fill their stomach up, to kind of get rid of the hunger, so to speak. But what happens? They end up going to the toilet all of the time. And then when they start going to the toilet all of the time, every 20 minutes, they start to piss out electrolytes. So the kidneys already getting rid of like excess water out of your system, and at the same time flushing out electrolytes. So if you're topping up water, like, if you're drinking 4 liters a day or something, like, especially when you're not eating, you're going to be going to the toilet a lot, and you're going to be flushing out those valuable electrolytes. So that's just another thing I would say: drink when you feel thirsty, but don't use it as a replacement for food. um Excuse me, I've never done this much talking in a while. How to break the fast. Okay, so breaking the fast, it does matter, right? So what I would say is, if you are like first starting out whole foods, right? Like if you're doing a 16-hour fast, just break with whole foods. Don't get too caught up. What you want to be keeping away from is processed garbage, shit food. But what can actually help you when you are first getting into fasting for that first meal of the day is having something lower in carbohydrates, higher in fats and protein. So think of eggs of any kind. Think of, a piece of meat or fish with a little bit salad, maybe a little bit olive oil or some feta cheese, some avocado and eggs, that type of thing. What that's going to help you do is become more fat adapted. It's going to be teaching your body that you're intaking fats for fuel. And so when there's no food around, i.e., when you fast, it's able to tap into the body fat. You become more metabolically flexible when you increase your fats in your diet. And so I'd be having the first meal. See, I was doing a 16-8 first meal, midday, 4 boiled eggs, maybe a little bit olive oil, some feta cheese, done. The evening meal, this is where I'm going to have my main meal of the day, and it's going to have carbs, fats, fiber, protein. It's going to have the full work, right? One, especially after training, you want to be having some carbohydrates. It's not essential, but trust us, it does help. Especially when you're insulin sensitive after fasting, when you do have the carbohydrates, it opens up the doors to the cells, which allows more nutrients in. When the glycogen's filling up in your muscles, it's drawing in amino acids and other vitamins and minerals. So that is why I would have, it's usually a big calorie dense meal, because you only eating twice a day as well, which I forgot to add. Again, making sure you're having a good amount of protein, your carbs and your fats. Longer fasts. Okay, so what I would say, if you're new to it, right, is first of all, when you break your fast, like, it can be a bit of a shock on the digestive system, right? And you might need to go to the toilet if you take a big intake of food. if you're somebody like me, I'm quite like I wouldn't say used to that, because I don't do that, but like I'm saying, I sorry, let me start again. If I eat a big meal, my digestive system is absolutely fine. My body has been trained to go all day and to have a big meal, and it's absolutely sound. I can even go 2 or 3 days and I can still have a big meal and I'm okay. Some people might have some digestive troubles. So what you want to be doing is having something small, something that's easily digestible, something like yogurt, or some eggs, or some slow cooked. But what I find that works for me, especially on my long fasts, I have bone broth, slow cooked meat, um, and some avocado, and that is perfect for me. You know, some people break with fruits. I'm not a big fan of breaking with the fruits. It's one, it spikes your insulin, it raises your blood sugars, it takes you out of like autophagy and stuff as quicker. I find it'll make you less fat adapted. But the other thing is it's, for me, when I'm having something sweet after starting a fast, it kind of like kicks that thing in of like, I want to eat, I want to eat, I want to eat. You know, you raise blood sugars and then they're going to drop again, and then you know, I want to eat again. Whereas you have fats and protein, something that's been slow cooked, it's easy for the body to digest, but it's kind of a steady, energy supply. So again, this is down to you. I would encourage you to play around with this and experiment a little bit. You know, you might find that having some watermelon is perfect for you, but you also might find that having a little bit of Greek yogurt is also great for you, or having some slow cooked meat like I do. And then what you want to do after that smaller meal is maybe an hour or two later, have something a little bit bigger. This is where you could have some carbohydrates in there. There's something to be aware of as well, and it's something called the refeed syndrome. And this is probably when you're getting into the 5+ days fasts, where you want to be a little bit more conscious of this. So again, when we take in carbohydrates, our body converts that to glycogen, which then draws water into the muscles to store the glycogen. What can happen if you take a big intake of carbohydrates after 5 days or 6 or 7 days worth of days of fasting? Is it's going to draw up all the glycogen, it's going to draw the water, but at the same time, again, it's going to draw other things into the cells. It's going to draw in electrolytes, in particular potassium. Now, when it does that, it can cause an imbalance between the blood and the cells, and it can be quite dangerous. So that's something that you want to be aware of. So especially if you're doing like multiple days fast, just break with something smaller and then eat again a little bit later. The other thing I would say is plan the next 3 to 5, possibly even more days out, in terms of what you're going to be eating, when you're going to be eating, the fasts that you're going to do after that. Because when you've not eaten for 5 days and then you start eating, after a couple of days, your body, you're gonna feel the hunger. Like it's gonna be harder to control your appetite, and you will eat anything. And I've done this myself. I've done this a few times myself. I've done a lot of 5 day, 6. I've done 160. I've done a lot of 4 or 5 day fasts, and I promise you now, like, you can get so hungry to a point where you will eat. Oh, and I'm talking, I think the first 5 day fast I did, within 5 days to a week, I put on 8 kilos back on after. So that's just something to watch out for. Plan your fasts afterwards. Plan the increase in your food on the days after that longer fast. So breaking the fast. Next, safety and awareness. If you're feeling ill, low energy, if you're feeling off, I would encourage you to say, have I had a drink? Have I had my electrolytes? Sit down, give yourself 5 or 10 minutes. Usually you'll feel a little bit lightheaded and you'll know that you haven't eaten for a day after you've not eaten for a day. But when you get around 36 hours, you'll wake up and you go, whoa, definitely tell that I haven't eaten for a day or a day and a half. And your initial thought's going to be, I need to eat something. I need to eat something. If you sit up, give yourself 10, 15 minutes, have a cuppa, have some water, electrolytes, maybe do some gentle movement, you'll find that period of like, whoa, I haven't eaten for a while, it goes, and then you have this boost in energy. But what I would say is, if you've got dizziness, any confusion, like if you're feeling really faint, then I would heart palpitations as well, or like, an excessive like weakness in your body where you just like, something's not right. Like there's only there's only you who knows how you feel. And so tap into that. Am I just making it as an excuse, or do I really feel unwell here? If I do, okay, break the fast. Because at the end of the day, don't push because of your ego. If you really feel unwell, then just break it, and then you can learn from that next time. Okay, next. I'm not currently working with women, but if there's any women watching this, if you're pregnant or you're breastfeeding, you probably want to avoid fasting. If you are underweight or malnourished, then maybe you want to avoid fasting. However, if you are underweight, putting structure around your nutrition can help increase weight. I know it sounds mad, but when you've got no structure, sometimes you can just drift and not eat enough. Whereas if you fast and create the structure, you can potentially eat more if you structure it in that way. If you are recovering from an eating disorder, now I have to tell you this, but the other thing is so I had a friend who I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was, they say that you shouldn't fast when you've got eating disorder, and I can't recommend for or against it because I've never had an eating disorder, and I don't want to tell you what to do in kind of that way. But if you are insistent on doing it, then just be aware of it, right? But my friend, she actually found that she had more control, and that was the thing that she needed, was the control. And because she was controlling when she ate, she could control what she ate, and she didn't feel guilty when she ate, and she didn't feel like she had to binge, and she didn't feel like she was like questioning her nutrition all the time because she had this control over fasting. So, but those are things to be aware of. Also, if you're diabetic, especially if you are type 1 diabetic, I do have a friend who is type 1 and he does fasts. He fasts, but that is down to you at the end of the day. If you like, I can put you in contact with him. But what I would be encouraging you to do is be checking your blood sugars every hour or so. And also, when you do break your fast, you're going to have to calculate what you're eating in terms of how much insulin you're going to be giving yourself. Again, I can't give you any advice on that. I'm not going to give you any advice on that. But that's something to just look out for. Like, you need to do a bit more research, and I would say you even want to get some medical advice, like speak to your doctor before you like start going into this fasting lifestyle. Type 2 diabetes, you can completely reverse type 2 diabetes with fasting and nutrition. There's a doctor, Dr. Jason Fung. Go and check him out. He's like helped thousands of people now, and a lot of that is down to the insulin sensitivity, increasing insulin sensitivity, allowing your body to your cells to become sensitive to insulin again. I'm not going to go into that. That is a video for another time. But if you are type 2 diabetic, yes, you can fast. Maybe you want to speak to your doctor. Maybe you want to start small and then build up. So yeah, a little bit of safety and awareness around fasting. Again, fasting should reduce friction and not increase it. And I've touched into this already, but fit fasting to fit your lifestyle. Progressing into long fasts, we've covered that. Planning the refeed, we've covered that. There's some other things that I want to touch on is like common mistakes. So it's like using fasting as a punishment. You've been binging, for instance, and you go, do you know what it is? I'm just going to do fasts to compensate for that and use it as a punishment. So you go, oh, I've been a fatty for this week. I'm going to do a 5-day fast. What you're going to end up doing then is falling in the cycle of going, oh, well, it's okay, I can have a binge because then what I'll just do a 3 to 5 day fast. In reality, you don't want to be using it as the punishment or as the thing to kind of offset it. What I would say as well is kind of like try and try and stick with the protocol that you're doing for a little bit of time. You don't have to just keep chopping and changing. Find something that works and stick with it. It makes life easier. And then if you do need to, adapt it. The other thing I would say as well is, and I did this the other week, I'm not even going to lie to you, is ignoring your. I've wrote here ignoring sleep, recovery, and stress, but I'm going to say it is all a stress on your body, is in terms of like your training, your sleep, your recovery, how long you fast for. It's all kind of like, not all of it, but like fasting, work, training are all stresses on the body. And sometimes you can continue to push and push and push. Like I did the other week. I've been following this new fasting cycle for around 10 weeks, and I didn't want to change my schedule, basically. I was on a 42-hour fast, and on the Monday, after training really hard on the Sunday, and I was also due a deload week, on the Monday, my body was so tired, and my body was saying, we need to eat something. But because I was like stuck in this routine and this mindset of, no, I want to do this 42-hour fast, I did it, and I was even worse next year. And then as a result of that, later on in the week, for 2 days, I had energy, and then I decided to train again. And then about an hour after that training session, I started sneezing and I got ill. And I was like, I was ill for like nearly a week, like couldn't train, low energy. And what I did, I just ate and ate and ate throughout that time. And, unwanted weight gain. I kind of put myself back because I didn't listen to my body and I pushed through with the ego. One thing is, like, when you are stressing out your nervous system, so when you're doing too much training, too much work, too much fasting, it can have an effect on your central nervous system. When you have a negative effect on your central nervous system, you wear it out. It's going to wear out your immune system. And then what happens as a result, you can get sick. And that's it's happened to me a few times. And it's just trying to listen to your body and understand that, and just going, do you know what it is? I need to pull back from the fasting a little bit. I need to eat a little bit more today. Today I actually do need to do a rest day. And or this week I do need to do a deload. Like, yeah. So that's that. I think that wraps us up with, so I've kind of done it back to front, but planning your fasts. You want to be planning, fit fasting to fit your lifestyle. Might mean doing 1 or 2 different types of fasts throughout the week. It might mean some days you don't fast. And then the weekly review is to tap into how you felt that week. Did it align with my schedule? Did it align with my training? Did it align with my work? How's my energy, my mood, my sleep been? And then again, we run a data-driven system here. And so we can actually figure all this out from your stats, which it'll show you what's working and what's not working, which I will cover. I will cover the data part of this in the next video. What else? Oh yeah, also tapping into your body composition. So your weight, your body, your muscle mass. If you're over fasting, if you're under eating, and you're wasting muscle away, you want to be tapping into that. So again, it's the cause and effect, and if X happens, what happens to Y thinking. So that is it for fasting. The next one is lifestyle design. So what is lifestyle design? Lifestyle design is designing a life that works for you. And I'm going to cover 2 different frameworks here, right? I'm going to cover 2 different frameworks, right? And, sorry, okay. First of all, why do we need lifestyle design, right? So lifestyle design is like basically designing your daily and weekly structure. And we have a morning routine, okay? You've got your morning routines. You've got your evening routines. What happens in the middle? Or what brings this all together? So the thing that brings us all together is the lifestyle design. And the first framework, so actually before the first framework, we are going to run through this. So it's removing any wasted time. Get your pen, get your piece of paper, because here's an action step for you. So what we want to do first of all, before we start designing our life, is look at kind of things that we can remove that's going to free up even more time. So things like mindless scrolling, constant checking emails and messages, having meetings that don't really have a clear objective or purpose, just for the sake of it, and then also just like saying yes to everything, or when when somebody asks you to do something, your automatic response is yes. And then other things like maybe overcomplicating simple tasks. And so what I want you to do is spend a couple minutes and just write down three of the biggest time wasters, three of the biggest time wasters that you do throughout the week. Again, that could be scrolling. It could be just like checking, going backwards and forwards to emails, and again scrolling, going from one platform to another, things like that. So, and yes, you are going to check your notifications and emails, but you can set time aside in the day to do that, just to add to that. So pause this video and then write down those three time wasters. The other thing I want you to do before you pause the video is you want to choose what you can reduce, what you can maybe batch into like a little work block. So emails or checking social medias, you can go right at, and certain points throughout the day, this is when I check emails, or on a morning or lunch break, this is when I go on my social media, and then maybe on an evening, rather than just going on it throughout the day. The other thing within work, okay, what are the things that you could delegate? What are the things that you don't actually need to do, which you can give to somebody else to do? Delegate some of that. So that's going to help you free up any wasted time. And then the next part of lifestyle design, this is before we get into the frameworks. Again, with the morning routine, the evening routine is very important. Actually, it's specifically what I would see a Sunday night, which I posted something about last night. Like a Sunday is like the start of the week, but a Sunday night, getting to bed at a reasonable time on a Sunday night is going to have an effect to your week. You go to bed late on a Sunday night, that has a knock-on effect to the Monday morning, and that has a knock-on effect to the rest of the week. Your evening routines matter just as much as your morning routines. What you want to be thinking about doing is having a cut-off time from screens and phones, because most of us know that when you're looking at your phone, when you're looking at screens and things, it's artificial light, and you're basically telling your body, your brain, that the sun is still up. Now, what happens when the sun goes down is melatonin increases, which puts you into, which state is it again? But basically helps you wind down at the end of the day and helps you prepare to go to sleep. Now, if you're constantly looking at phones and constantly looking at bright lights, tellies, and this, that, and the other, that can have an effect on you being able to get to sleep. The other thing is like if you're constantly working and then you're working up until late and then you just go to sleep, like you're not having any time to wind down, to switch off. You'll go to bed and you might just be thinking about this, and this. Whereas if you put a kind of your routine in place where, okay, an hour or two before bed, I don't go on my phone, no like work, I give myself some time to wind down. You might do a little bit more mobility. You might even go for a sauna or a steam room, which I like to do. You might do some breath work or meditation. Like, this is completely down to you. What I would say is have that evening routine is like at least an hour or so. And I want you to just make a note and just write that actually in your calendar. I want you to go into your calendar right now and just put that block of time in that takes you from when you start winding down to when you go to bed. You're going to put that in there, and in the notes, you're going to put in the things that you're going to do or not do. So if you just take a moment to do that. Okay. What I would say here, right? So we're going to move into locking in the weekly lifestyle design review. So I want you to, And at first, this might take 20, 30 minutes to do. But as time goes on, it's not going to take much time at all, if any. And it's just a weekly review of your calendar. So first of all, what you're going to do is, preferably a Sunday or a Saturday, put in this 30-minute block where that specific time is for going over your life, going over your calendar, and understanding what worked, what didn't work, what needs to change. And an easy way to do this is if you set out all these different, which we'll get to shortly, but if you're setting out with like non-negotiables in your calendar, or like blocks in your calendar, you make them make those entries repeat. And then what you would do each week, instead of having to create your calendar over and over again, you edit that series of calendar entries, change the time, and that'll change it for the future weeks. But yeah, you want to be locking in that time so that you do have that time put aside to review your week, to refine your week, to improve it. And again, what you want to be asking yourself, if X changes, what happens to Y? If training volume increases, does your recovery increase? If your work intensity increases, then do you need to structure it in a different way? Do you need to increase recovery? Or, do you need to, if your workload increases, do you need to put like little 10, 15-minute blocks in between those work blocks so that you get that little reset? For instance, okay, if family demands increase, then what are the things in your business you can do to kind of delegate? Or maybe you're training 4 or 5 days a week. Okay, things are getting busy. Well, maybe I'll change to 3 days a week, or like 2 days a week in the gym, or 1 home workout. So that's what I encourage you to do in your weekly lifestyle design review. Take a moment, press pause, pop that into your calendar. Okay. So this one depends on which type of category you fall into. So if you are somebody who follows a 9-to-5 schedule, so if you work 9 to 5, or you've got a business that you run and you follow a very structured schedule, it might not be a 9 to 5, it might be 8 and 4 or 8, 6, whatever that is. The idea here, right, is you lock in your non-negotiables, and it's called the all or nothing method. And where this comes from is I was in the all or nothing mindset where I have to be all in. I have to be all in at everything, or it just goes out the window. And what happened is I was constantly doing this, going all in on everything, busy from the moment that I woke till the minute that I went to sleep. And as a result, I burnt out time and time again. Wake up 5 o'clock, do my bit morning routine, my yoga. I would go to work all day. I'd work on my lunch break. I'd finish work. I'd go to the gym. I'd have my food. Then I'd sit down on the laptop for a few hours. Before I know it, it's time to go to bed. Now, at first, you feel like you're smashing it because you feel like you're getting a lot done. But in reality, you're not really being that productive. So if you've been working all day, you've went to the gym, and then you've had your food, do you really think that if you sit on the laptop for 3 hours on the night, that you are going to be that productive? You'll get stuff done, but you won't be that productive. And again, with your training sessions, if you know that you've got to have your food and your work on the night, do you think you're going to have a productive training session? Do you think you're going to hit it as hard as you think you could? No, because your mind's going to be thinking, I've got to get home, I've got to have my food, then I've got to do this work, and and you're just in that all or nothing mindset where if you aren't doing all of these things every day, then what's the point? Because then you end up, when you start to skip one thing, it'll have a knock-on effect to the other. What I used to do is I used to escape and use substances, and then that would have a negative effect on everything. And as a result, my business just ground to a halt. And so we call this the all and nothing. So for a 9-to-5 person, your free time is usually on an evening and on a weekend. And what you're going to do is alternate when you are all in on one thing and you are doing nothing on the other. So I'll give you, for instance, instead of training 5-6 days a week, reduce that to 3 training sessions a week. So Monday night, you work out. You don't go on the laptop. Tuesday night, you don't work out, but you go on the laptop and you get a lot more productive, like a lot more work done. So that time spent on the laptop, because you haven't been frying your brain from doing it every single day. When you go on the laptop, your brain is just firing and you can be a lot more productive, because you haven't wore your body out that evening. So you're giving your body a rest, and you train. So I like to think of it as like training the body one day, training the mind the other day, and then the next one I would get to is like, having some family time, or some social time, or some recovery time, like actually going for a sauna, steam room, having some downtime for yourself. And that's kind of like training the soul. So you like train the body, the mind, and the soul. And when you kind of, it might take a little bit of experimenting with your routine, but if you can get that down to a T, like you're winning in all areas of life. Like, again, I did this, won these medals and trophies here, right, by following this routine. I was working a 9 to 5 job. I was building my business. I was competing as an athlete. I was training insane, but I was only training 3 days a week, just harder, more intense sessions. I still made time for friends and family. And as a result, no burnout, zero burnout. So that is, the idea is locking your non-negotiables that you need to be able to do. So your 9 to 5's locked out. Then you need to be assigning your training, business, family, and recovery time to those blocks of free time. So again, on the evenings and on the weekends, and structure it in a way that allows you to kind of hit the reset button, and allows you not to be doing everything every day. So it's going from all or nothing to all and nothing. When you're all in on one thing, you're nothing on the others, rather than trying to do everything every day. I hope that makes sense. I really hope that makes sense. I've got this in a PDF if you need it. I'll give you the full breakdown. You can also comment on this video. And so moving on to the next one, right? And this is for your full-time entrepreneurs. This is for your full-time kind of, I would say, entrepreneurs who manage their own time. So where they can be flexible, you're managing your own calendar. You're not in this rigid 9 to 5 schedule. You can break your day up. And so this one's called the 3s, 2s, 1s method. And so we do things slightly different here. So, for most established entrepreneurs, business is probably doing really well, right? And where you may be not doing so well is your health and your fitness, and maybe even spending time with family, or even giving yourself some time back yourself, so that you can regulate and, de-stress and all those things. So the idea here is the 3s, 2s, 1s, right? Those are work blocks. Let's put them aside for a second. Let's lock in our non-negotiables. What are your non-negotiables? Well, my non-negotiables is 1, my training. So I'm going to lock in my training sessions for the week. Then I'm going to be locking in my eating times. Non-negotiable. Must eat, and I must eat good, healthy, nutritious foods. Third one is recovery. Recovery, because again, let's go back to the pillars. Recovery is like the reset, and it allows us to continue performing. It allows us to continue performing at a high level. So recovery, so important, and that's, that can be your mobility, your stretching, your sauna, your steaming, your ice baths, whatever that looks like to you, going on a walk, whatever that is, locking in those recovery sessions. So once you've got your non-negotiable, massively important, and I can't believe I'm forgetting this, or nearly forgot, is locking in your family time. So for me, that means spending my Friday evenings. I spend my Friday evening with my mother, my niece, and my nephew. That is locked in. That is a non-negotiable. I don't change that. That is locked in. So for you, this is going to look different for everybody. But what I would do is just go, right, what are the non-negotiables? What should be a non-negotiable? Get it locked in, put it in the calendar. And don't get me wrong, for the first couple of weeks, you might need to change a little bit, but get that locked in, right? Once you've got your non-negotiables locked in, then we're going to start locking in our working hours. So for me, it's like 3 hour blocks on a morning. Like it's one of the first things I do after my morning routine. I've got a 3 hour block locked in, and this is like for deep, intense work blocks. Then you've got like 2 hour, like 2 hour blocks for like, you might take some calls. You might, yeah, you probably have your meetings and your catch ups and your that sort of stuff, going through your projects, whatever that means for you. And then your ones. So these are like kind of micro blocks that I can do. It's anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour. And I like to do them maybe when I'm on the go. And I could be resting in between sets at the gym, and I'm on a sauna and I'm just ticking off tasks or handing things over to my business partner, or I could be writing a little piece of content. Whatever that is, it's like getting little micro blocks, and it doesn't seem like much, but it compounds over time. Even like 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. Sometimes when I've been for a sauna or a steam room, and I'm cooling off by the pool, I'll open my phone, and instead of just like scrolling away, I'll maybe write a piece of content, or I'll update some tasks in a sauna, that sort of thing. So it's kind of getting those like threes, twos, and ones in, and you'd kind of build those in around your non-negotiables. And again, week by week, you kind of just adjust these like based on a number of different factors, based on your whole lifestyle, basically. And you might go, actually, it might make sense for us to do this, or it might make sense for us not to have a 3 hour block there and I do a 2 hour block there. And, or actually, there's times where, you know, I'm walking the dog. I could be doing a couple of little, like this is for me personally. I'm not walking the dog, and I will do a couple of bits of work on my phone. And by all means, like I'm not telling you to work all of the hours of the day, but this is just a way to get those extra little 15-minute blocks in. So that is your threes, twos, ones. It's basically the what did I call that framework? Completely forget now. The yeah. I've got that on a PDF if you want it as well, which will break it all down for you. Drop a comment and I'll sort it out for you. Anything else for lifestyle design? We've covered that. Yeah, that's called the full-time entrepreneurs. It's basically that's done. Okay. 2 hours and 12 minutes for the first three pillars of the limitless lifestyle. So on the next video that I do, which you'll see, I'm going to be covering your nutrition, your training, and recovery. And yeah, I don't expect this to go on for another 2 hours. But yeah, this is giving me a good idea of how these sessions are going to go next month, because I'm going to be doing this whole session again with up to like 100 people online. So yeah, it's been good. It's been good to kind of talk in front of the camera again. It's been good to kind of share some knowledge, share some of my frameworks. If anybody's watching this, I'd appreciate some feedback. If you've got any questions, comments, suggestions on anything that I've talked about, if you can like, subscribe, do all of that stuff. I'm also over on Instagram, Jason Gutsell. And yeah, appreciate you for watching, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.